You know, the reason why I ended up being like multiple skills is because I was surrounded by people, oddly enough, in the industry who were artists and designers and directors and actors and musicians, and all of these people came together within the environments that I was living and surrounded by, making it very hard to, I mean, obviously we're influenced by people around you. And after my dad left the embassy, he was actually, he owned his own radio station in South Africa. And then after that, I think he ran as director at the Market Theatre. So before he ran at the Market Theatre as the director, he actually knew a whole bunch of people in the art world and the music world and the film world, because everybody from Los Angeles to New York would come down and visit people in South Africa. It's important to explain to people that my lifestyle has been a bit all over the place, from my dad, who was like a former diplomat, all the way down to him actually working as the director at the Market Theatre. So I don't know if you've gone or if anybody knows about South Africa and the Market Theatre. But if you know anything about the Market Theatre, you know that all the top people from New York and Los Angeles actually do land in South Africa and basically get involved with acting and performing and stage performances. And I mean, I even remember Winston Marsalis coming down to the Market Theatre. I don't know how that all happened, but my dad somehow had something to do with that, I think. So it's important to understand the reason why people turn out a certain way is because of the environment and the people that they might be around, right? So that's part of the process here. Okay, let me talk a bit about the fashion, because the fashion became part of also who I am. Is that fashion played a very big role in societal changes and development. I think I had spoken about this on my, to understand what I really am or who I am is to understand the background. Is that I was around actors and actresses and directors and photographers and artists, and the list goes on, because of the jobs that my parents were actually involved in. My mom was a singer, opera singer, but she basically played a role in a lot of things that happened within the embassy environment and cultural events that had happened within those spaces. So I think it's important to understand that a person doesn't just become a certain way. And I don't choose to just focus on one, because I had so many people in the industry tell me, you can't be a musician, you can't be a vocalist, you can't be a pianist, you can't be a designer. I had so many can'ts that I was finally tired of the can'ts, and I said, I'm going to do all of them. So I did all of them. And I didn't care what the whole industry said, because I finally decided that it was important for me to just do it for myself. There are a lot of gatekeepers in the industry. We all know the reason why Disney and Sony are falling out of alignment with jobs and problems that are happening is because people know that the gatekeeping. I'm coming from a perspective of knowing full well how the industry works, because I have been inside of it. Okay, my sister's an actress besides being a singer. She was actually on The Voice in South Africa. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of seeing talent not being pushed in the right direction. I'm sort of thankful that this AI stuff is coming about, because it shows people that if you have the skills and you are capable of doing multiple things, you can work with AI. You can make the AI work with you, so it's a collaboration versus it being against you. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that I've realized that by speaking to AI, right, I do talk, obviously we all talk to AI, right? At this stage, we're all having conversations on different levels, whether it's ChatGPT or Cloud. Is that right? And then now we have Ask Studio, YouTube Studio, and Ask Studio is built into YouTube, right? So the built-in kind of situation enables you to kind of look in different directions on your channel. And I think you need to understand, or people need to understand, that the reason why it's important to be that polymath right now is because what needs to happen is we need to see AI as a collection of layers. It is like a layer, like it speaks on many different levels. Just like when I was doing this by myself, I had nobody to speak to on like 6 different layers of things. So I know that AI plays the role of polymath, and social society forces us to choose one direction. And I heard it so many times in the industry. The actors are like, you can't be like an actor and like perform on stage, or the pianist was like, oh, you're not allowed to do that because that's my role. I'm like, who are you to tell me what to do? Like, I mean, you might be like successful people or whatever, but I don't think it's like people's rights to tell you how to run your life. So my whole life I have been running from being that one person type of thing. It's more like the one person type of scenario. Just be a musician, or just be an artist, or just be a computer tech. Like, I refuse to do that. I refuse to do that. So the music in the background you hear me produce, right? Like, I make sure that everything I do on here I own, whether it's the music, whether I'm teaching people how to do it from ground zero, whether it's the fashion. I made this. This is actually at the Smithsonian, one of the articles at the Smithsonian. All I can say is those were gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers are now finally realizing that it's not just about success and making it happen within the industry. They better have talent to maintain and hold on to their jobs now. That's all I'm saying. Is because the jobs are now, if you're not talented or gifted or have skills, you're going to potentially lose the positions within the industry because people are selecting people who are able to do more than one thing. If AI can do that, people can do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why society is scared, is that the hierarchy within the tech departments and worlds do know and realize that AI plays a very big role in the polymath world, right? Polymath. You can have a discussion on music production with AI, which I have done, and then I could switch over to the fashion side and have a conversation with the fashion and talk about like threading and all that stuff, all the way down to the IT and how to develop a website. That's what this is about. If you understand the mechanisms of how all of those skills work, you're going to be okay. I don't follow society. If I followed society, I wouldn't be doing what I do. Okay, so this was at the Smithsonian article. This actually saved me. Knitting saved me. I was in hospital twice, maybe even 3 times, twice. And the first time it was like a few months. I think I was in hospital for about 6 months. And for me to have kept my sanity, I needed to find some stuff to do. Whether it was a piano that they had in the corner of the, I guess like the kitchen area, I was playing the piano, or I was knitting. You would find me sitting and knitting in certain places. So we're talking about fashion, right? I talk about lots of things, but I think it's important to have more than one skill. And I think the way you can work with AI is knowing more than one skill, because that's what AI does. AI knows more than one skill. That's a known fact. And that's why I think people are scared of identifying those who are a little bit aware of other things, right? Okay, so this is fashion. You got to learn how to make patterns, what the materials do, pattern making, right? I remember when I was younger, back in the day, I was so bananas over Vogue magazine, and Vogue magazine was a Vogue magazine before it became like, I think it's on the platforms now, but it was actually magazine back in the day. So this is like a history of Vogue. Love it because it starts off with like watercolors and stuff like this, and then they shift over to photography. And I studied photography too, and graphic design. So for me, I was like taking photographs of models when I was in my 20s or 30s for the purpose of projects that I was putting together, because I set an event, I developed events, I put events and projects together for shows. You can go onto my resume, which is below. You can check out my site, which is a Wix site that I put together, and underneath that you can go straight into my resume and you can see all the jobs that I've done. Lots of jobs. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not in my 20s, I'm not in my 30s, I'm in my 40s. Okay, so I've had a little bit of so you can see the shift from watercolor into photographs. I mean, it was shown in the history of Vogue too. The same thing was happening in the art world. Is while all the photography was happening, they were shifting from understanding design and contour and furniture making. I don't remember all the I used to make furniture. We actually studied some furniture designs, and the furniture designers who made a big impact in that world, because the Corcoran was known to do a lot about that kind of stuff. They did like design. We even did like graphic design by hand. So we would draw like this. These ones, like these kind of things, for example. We would draw by hand. These are now prints, right? But we would literally draw by hand an illustration before Photoshop became like a thing, right? So that was like a whole process of the development of change. But yeah, I think at this stage, I think what's happening is that the gatekeepers are beginning to not become gatekeepers. I also knew people at Sony. I'm not going to pull out names because I think that that's like, but it has given me the strength to realize I don't need any of them. I don't need any of them because I know them and I know their personalities, and I was just not amused by how they went about doing things within the industries, right? So this whole thing and the change and the shift that is happening right now, I think is a good thing. I think it might be hurting people who don't have the talent and who thought that their crafty behavior and their gatekeeping would save their jobs. I don't think it is. My husband is talented. He has worked at CBS. CBS has had so many problems. He's there right now. He has not lost his job. Why? Because he understands the mechanics of how the actual company works. The underlying source. If you don't have the underlying source of how to build a company, you're going to have problems, because look at what happens now. Everything that is built up will fall apart. You have to have the basics. And what I do, I don't even call myself a polymath. I call myself a director, because a director should be able to do the filming. The director should understand the basics of music composition. A director should understand how to film and how to create a storyboard. I can do all of these things. Who's going to do the clothing? Who's going to get the people together? You have to understand the skills. I've put together events, projects, successful projects in South Africa. I do not do it here because it's a whole different kettle of fish in the United States than it is in South Africa. And when I was in South Africa, some of the people that are now successfully making it, or I don't know, maybe they're not. People in Disney in South Africa, I don't know how it's going there, but I know here in the States things are like disintegrating, right? Because we know that social media has taken over the roles of the growth in Hollywood, right? These are the places that we're now growing as a collective. But to grow doesn't just mean stopping right here. You have to grow and learn the skills. Like, learning the skills is the big important factor of this growth. Then we go into textiles. There's a lot of history in fashion. I think I did bring up that textiles came from, fibers came from different parts of Africa and different parts of Asia, and they were woven and knitted, and yeah, there were lots of different processes of how it was done. Embroidery, all of these things mattered, but it all came from not having technology at first. We didn't have the technology back in the day, so knitting became a big factor in how things were made. It still is. In areas of rural locations, this was done. I was in South Africa when I did this. So through that experience, I learned how to move my mental space from being where I was into something productive, which was making something that I could do if I was lying in bed, for instance, because I didn't have like no sewing machines in hospital. They wouldn't give you anything to use, so you had to work with what you had, right? That's like an important factor. So I just feel as if it's important to, I do talk a lot about history because that's what I studied. I studied the arts. I did my master's, if that makes any sense. I also did my bachelor's. I did my master's in South Africa. I'm just checking here. I also did my bachelor's in the United States. So I have from two areas. And then in Japan, I got my graduation for high school. So I was in 3 different places. And if you want to look up information on the jobs that I've had, you can go straight to my link, see who I am. Tyla's new in the industry. She's not the first, but she's definitely new in the industry, and people know her now for this generation. Other generations knew other musicians and artists, right? Those were the people before her were the people I spent time with. Okay, so that's it's a different story. The lifestyle now is different than it was before. Technology has opened the door for more communication about this kind of stuff. Back then, there was less conversations and more gatekeeping. Okay, people did a lot of gatekeeping without the technology because you weren't allowed to film anything. In fact, we didn't even have iPhones to actually film. If you met a celebrity, you could not take. In my case, I was not allowed to take photographs because embassy specifically, it was just a no-go. And when my dad was the director at the Market Theatre in South Africa after his embassy work, I had been connected, I still am connected to, I don't know if you know the Black Panther. Okay, there's a director that's called, or an actor that's called John Connie. He happens to be my dad's, Dr. John Connie. He always corrects me, Dr. John Connie. He played the father of the guy, I forgot his name, the guy that recently passed away, of the Black Panther. So there is a communication and connection that happens. It's closer than you think. The world of acting and film and music are actually closely connected. And fashion, we all know this, right? This is not an uncommon thing. I worked with the bassist for Vanessa Williams back in the day, I think it was at Guitar Center. So they're all connected. They were just gatekeepers. And I feel as if this is the time for me to just do what I can do best and be able to kind of make it work for myself, because now it just shows people I'm not going to stand down and just do the fashion, because I had a lot of people in the music industry that were like, oh no, you're going to be a designer. I was like, who said I was just going to be a designer? I'm not going to just be a designer. I do music as well. They didn't like it. There were a lot of people that did not like that I was able to do multi-dimensional things. And it's going to happen. If you are a polymath, you will always experience people gatekeeping, even in the industry. They will push you aside and say, oh no, you're not allowed to do this because we do that. Yeah, I got tired of that. I clearly set everything up myself. This is my music equipment over here, if you don't know. I'm just sitting in the corner right now because I just need to sit. Tour Sewing Techniques. Great book to have if you're wanting to learn to sew. My channel is not all about fashion. I'm sorry to tell you, this is not just a fashion channel. It is a channel that has multi-dimensional angles because I was a project manager. I call myself a director now because that is what I am doing for my own projects and vision. Is I run my own kind of process here. So the sewing is, I'm not going to be swayed just because social media wants me to be, just like I said. Everybody is swaying people to be a certain thing, which I do not agree with. I don't agree with people saying, oh, you should probably do this because the direction is going towards people more interested visually about the sewing. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to make a little bit of a frictional glitch. I am the glitch in the system. Let's put it that way. I'm not here to play, oh, what's social media gonna like? Like, it's great, but I'm more here to stand my ground because all these years in the film industry and in the music industry and in the art industry, I had so many people who were professionals who kept saying, oh, you can't do this because this is what you're supposed to do. That I was finally like really tired of it, and I just said, I up and left and I said, screw you all in South Africa. I'm coming to the States and I'll do it my way.